The words of Winston Churchill: do not ask what the government can do for you. Ask yourself, what can you do for your country? 90% of Kenyans never read the budget to know which projects have been allocated, which money, and what they should be expecting coming to their area or their sector of interest. 95% of Kenyans do not believe that they pay taxes.
Pearl Radio, the home of fresh and classic hits.
Privileged in studio, we have the amazing Morara Kebaso, who's a political activist and a lawyer at the same time. He's right here in studio, na tunataka tumkaribishe kwa vigelegele vile tunakaribishanga wageni hapa, vigelegele kabisa na shangwe. Karibu sana. Sorry we did not have the traditional dancers. Hawajafika, wameshikwa na mvua.
Yes.
But we are glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And karibu sana to our studios.
Yes.
First of all, as we start, just can you briefly introduce yourself to us and your work as an activist?
My name is Morara Kebaso. I'm 29 years old. I'm a lawyer. I'm a businessman.
Yes.
I run several companies ranging from furniture manufacturing to car rental to property business in real estate. Apart from that, I'm born again.
Wow.
I love the Lord.
You are born again?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm born again. I worship at Sitam Current Church.
Awesome.
That is my home church. And yes, I'm glad to be here this morning to have this conversation with you.
Karibu sana.
For the benefit of the listeners.
Absolutely. What inspired you into activism? Because the first video we saw of you was online about what was it about, by the way?
Yes. Well, I believe the young people have a great role to play in the governance of our nation. Not just in keeping the government accountable, but also rising up to occupy positions in government. And I want to encourage the young people to take up the challenge. Leadership comes from God, but you have to step up for it. It just doesn't come to look for you where you're sleeping. You have to make a personal decision that it is something you want to do, and pursue prayer and listen to the Lord whether He will give you that permission to do it. And I believe we need more young people in leadership, and more especially young people that fear the Lord and that are saved, and that have the values that we are seeking in governance.
Right.
Personally, political activism has not been easy for me because it comes with very many challenges. Some of them are personal security. Others are you're going to be pursued by the agencies of the state. But if you're strong, and if you rely on the Lord for strength, you will not fail.
Absolutely.
I began by recording videos, doing speeches, presidential speeches, where I could speak about the different things that we want done in our country, but now speak them from the personality of a president. Especially the one that caught notoriety is the one after the Gen Z demonstration, after the president did a speech in State House and said, "These criminals." I did another speech which had empathy, and which tried to address some of the issues that the Gen Z were raising in those demonstrations. And from then, I started visiting different government projects around the country. Out of 47 counties, I've been able to go to 32 counties out of 47. I've been able to tour 97 government projects worth over 200 billion shillings. And from project to project, I've been showing Kenyans how exactly their money is used. Remember, we have a budget of about 3.9 trillion. That's about 4 trillion shillings. But majority of this money is wasted and stolen by people who seek to personally enrich themselves at the expense of the poor and suffering Kenyans. Therefore, I believe that the videos have been impactful in the sense of opening Kenyans' eyes to make better decisions at the ballot, because your power is in the ballot. And I encourage young people to register as voters, not just as voters, but also to take up the challenge of wanting to occupy these leadership positions. When the righteous are in power, the people rejoice. So if you are afraid of being an MP or being a senator or becoming a women rep or becoming a president, you feel like it's going to take you out of your comfort zone, it's going to disorganize your life, then you should be ready to be led by those who take up the challenge. And mostly the people who take up the challenge are criminals, wash, con men, people who run brothels. Simply speaking, the worst amongst the society, those who have violent crimes, are the ones who are going to lead you because you are not ready to step up. So it's time for good people and people of integrity to step up and accept to participate in leadership, not just as voters, but even as leaders.
Do you believe that you're a good person qualifying for such positions that you've mentioned, you as a person, as Morara Kebaso?
Yes, I do believe that my intentions are pure. My motivation to seek leadership is not driven by greed or for wanting to get money or be enriched. In fact, yesterday I did a tweet and I said the only politicians who are enjoying politics are the ones who are doing it for the money. So personally, I don't do it for money. I believe people can make money in business, they can make money in art, they can make money in talent, in entertainment, and much more money than even politicians can ever make.
There are people who say that politics is a murky area, and now you've mentioned you're born again, and there are things called systemic evils in the governance. Now, as an individual, what is it that you're going to do different? Because we've had so many people say that if you give me this position, if I'm elected into office, I'm going to do this and this and this because I believe in this. But you get there, you find that the systems are not working in favor for you.
In the words of Winston Churchill, do not ask what the government can do for you. Ask yourself, what can you do for your country? So, well, the kind of problems that we have in Kenya are not problems that can be solved by a leader. These are problems that can be solved by the citizens with the guidance of good leadership. But most of the problems, 70%, 80% of the problems that we have in Kenya are actually because of the Kenyan people themselves. For example, you see, these corrupt leaders that we have, they didn't start corruption today. They began somewhere, somehow in the private sector. If you have a person who is a milk vendor, who puts water in milk so that they can have more quantity of milk. Or if you have a conductor wa matatu who you give 1,000 shillings, then they refuse to give you back your change and say, you gave me 100 shillings. Or if you have a parent who buys exam papers for their child so that they can pass KCSE, or if you have a meter reader for Kenya Power who inflates your bill so that you can bribe them, or a police officer who takes bribes, or women who sell their bodies for purposes of getting money or wealth. As long as you have a society with those kind of evils, you're going to end up with bad leaders, because leaders are a reflection of who we are. And that is why you see things like the Honorable Anne Waiguru. She had an NYS case where more than 20 billion shillings was stolen. But she still got elected as a governor, not once, but twice. You have Gladys Bosholei, the women rep of Uasin Gishu County, who before that had a corruption case while she was the registrar of the judiciary, and she's gotten elected. I think this is now the third time. You have Marianne Keitani, who is now the MP for Aldai, who's been mentioned in several corruption cases, but she still gets elected. You have Didmas Baraza, who shot someone or has a murder case in court, and right now he's actually the leading candidate towards becoming the governor of Bungoma. You have people removing Governor Kabogo and replacing him with Waititu.
So in short, the problem is the people.
Well, to a larger percentage, the problem is the people, because first, the people celebrate mediocrity. The people also vote for mediocrity. The people are so disenfranchised and disillusioned that if you try having a conversation with them about how you can create opportunities for them to earn wealth, they don't want to listen to that. They want the 200 shillings that you can give them right now.
So now you, as a young man, fairly young man in this particular sphere, what is it that you can do to change all that? Because if it's something that has been there over time, What is it that can be done? And you as a person, what is your initiative?
My initiative is civic education and inspiration. I believe change in our country, that's where it should begin. Should begin with the educating the masses on first, what is their role as citizens? What is their citizen responsibility? 95% or 98% of Kenyans have never read the Constitution. Therefore, they don't even know the system of governance that we have. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what they need. 90% of Kenyans never read the budget to know which projects have been allocated, which money, and what they should be expecting coming to their area or their sector of interest. 95% of Kenyans do not believe that they pay taxes. Most of them believe that those who are employed and on a pay slip are the ones that remit taxes to KRA and maybe businessmen like myself.
But indeed they do.
Anybody who buys a packet of milk, they have paid taxes. If you buy bread, you've paid tax. If you put a token, your steamer, your 50 bob, 20 shillings is tax. So sometimes when this money is stolen, Kenyans don't care. They say government money has been stolen. They do not say our money has been stolen.
Okay.
And people underrate the impact of corruption and theft. So what I can do as a young person getting into leadership, number one is that political education, because then again, you cannot convince these people to vote differently until you educate them on why they need to vote differently.
All right.
Number two is to inspire people of integrity to step up for leadership. And number three is to not be corrupt myself.
Okay.
Because you remember when I was on JKL with Jeff Koinange, you might remember I said that corruption cannot end in the government as long as the president is corrupt. So at the end of the day, the end of corruption begins with you.
Okay, hold it there. The end of corruption begins with you. Morara.
Yes.
What inspired you to get into this activism? Because it is a very, very dangerous field.
Personally, I would say this is a calling. Because just like Jonah, I've tried to run away from it.
Yeah, have you?
Many times.
We don't see anything like that.
Well, you know probably 20%. Because what you know is what you see in the media and maybe on social media.
So it is hard.
Very difficult. It's a tough job. It's a very difficult position to be in, because you're not just challenging corrupt people, but even their accomplices, the people they work with, people who have benefited from that corrupt system, the engineers who benefited from that tender, the contractors who benefited from that tender, the children of those people, their relatives, the people from their tribe who don't see anything wrong, who feel their people are just targeted because of their tribe. You're dealing with citizens who are willing to vote for the better devil. Ati afadhali huyu kuliko ule. So they take the better devil to replace the current devil. Then they come to realize that the better devil was not better. Actually, now there is a better devil. So they are always voting for devils in the name of a better devil. So it's difficult. It's very difficult, especially personal security. This is the kind of thing which you'll have NIS pursuing you all the time. You have DCI pursuing you all the time. I've had KRA come after me and my money and my business. The safety and security of my family is not guaranteed.
Yes, there was a story the other day. Do you pay taxes?
I do pay taxes. In fact, I dare say that every Kenyan that has even 100 bob in their pocket is paying taxes. Any Kenyan that has bought even a sweet has paid taxes. Everybody pays taxes. Personally, I'm a business person, and yes, I do pay taxes. But you see, when you get into politics, there's a very thin line, a very faint line between the truth and what is false. And people take advantage of that. So sometimes they weaponize the truth by making it a half-truth, or they completely say things that are false against you. And sometimes they have so much power and audience that you cannot be able to defend yourself because of how much reach they have. So then those are the times when we run back to God and say, Mungu ananimaliza nisaidie.
Now, do you ever fear for your life?
I feared and got tired of fearing. Nowadays, I don't fear anymore. I don't even I don't think about it because, well, it is true that I can die any minute. It is true that you can be killed. It is true that the people you are challenging are quite dangerous. But then what choice do you have? Is it to join them? Or is it to continue with what you're doing? You see, as long as you're walking in divine favor, God is the source of your security.
Yeah.
Well, I do have security, maybe, you know, I have security, bodyguards, arrangements, but I don't think that is a source of security. Personally, I see it as crowd control. For me, that is just a crowd control measure, but it's not my security as I would put it. My security purely comes from God, and that is because I'm still doing the right thing. Probably when I do the wrong thing, then probably the presence of God, if it leaves me, then I will be left exposed.
Okay.
But as things stand now, the Lord has been the rock of ages where I run and I'm safe. And for that reason, I need not worry about my life, because life is short for everyone. In fact, all of us will die, including those who kill people. They'll also die.
Right. Why is it important for young people to hold the government accountable? Why is it so important for young people, and especially for you?
It's so important because you've seen what lack of accountability can do. We had a very good economy growing by double digits in 2013. And right now we have an economy that is on limbo. And that is just purely because of lack of accountability.
Yeah.
If you look back during the times of Moi and Kibaki, the scandals that you can remember is Anglo Leasing and Goldenberg, 37 billion and 25 billion. That's about 62 billion. Those were the biggest that we ever heard of. But right now, we have just one corruption scandal rounds all of them up. Kamoja tu, like the one for Ministry of Health just recently, when they spent 104 billion for a healthcare record system.
Yeah.
You see, that thing cannot cost more than $1 billion.
How sure are you that that's the total cost? I mean, $1 billion shillings for that particular infrastructure.
You can ask IT professionals. You know, we are not new to this. You can even ask companies that run these things called ERP systems, because basically that thing is an enterprise resource planning system. And you can see there are many ERP systems, even from there's one called Oracle that many companies use in Kenya. There's one by Microsoft that very many companies use in Kenya. Those things, that's if people are paying license for that thing, $1 million bob a month. So if you look at even the most complicated systems for like missile systems for defense and for modern weaponry, they don't cost that much. Even this software that they use to, you know, to track and monitor our phones and read our messages, which is called Pegasus, it only costed them about 2.3 billion. And you can see how serious that system is.
So the question is, where is the rest of the amount of money? Yeah,
most of the money is stolen, because when Kenyatta left the presidency in 1978, he left Kenya with a debt of 300 million Kenyan shillings. When Moi came and stayed for 24 years, he left with a debt of 900 billion shillings over the 24 years. When Kibaki came, he pushed it from 900 billion to 1.89 trillion in the 10 years that he was in power. But when the two brothers came, the two brothers with white shirts and red ties, oh my, it was a floodgate of theft. By the time Uhuru Kenyatta is leaving, the debt was at 9 trillion. These people stole like more than 1,000 times any other person has ever done in the history of the Republic of Kenya.
Let me ask you, you know, so hilo nasema mgala muwe haki mpe, sindio? Is there nothing good that the government has done? Because as we keep the government accountable, we believe there's some things that they've done, they do well, and others hawafanyi vizuri. Kwa hivyo vile vizuri, hakuna kitu ambacho umeona serikali ya mheshimiwa imefanya ambacho ni kizuri unaweza kusema kongole kwa hiki ambacho umefanya.
I just want to challenge you. Just tell me one. Moja tu. Just one.
Unga imeshuka.
You see, what we have right now is an artificial management of macroeconomics. This economy is being managed, and it's being managed in a way that it will collapse. Why? This is what they've done. They've looked at the basic commodities, one of them being unga. Then they've reduced prices on that one by reducing maybe tax,
Okay.
and increasing production. But look at everything else. You know, you give me with one hand and take more with another. Ni kama one step forward and 7 steps backward. So you reduce the price of unga, but the price of fare has gone up. You reduce the price of unga, but the cost of electricity has gone up. So the money that I was supposed to buy unga, I'm now taking it to electricity. You reduce the cost of unga, the cost of education has gone up. I went to university. Right now, the kind of school fees people are paying is so expensive. It's extremely, amazingly expensive. All right. You decrease the cost of unga. Why are we not talking about the cost of construction? If you look at chuma, because me I've constructed things here and there. Ukiangalia chuma ya D16 na chuma ya D18. At one point, D16 was at 1800. Right now it's 2600. Yeah, so if the prices of chuma are increasing, you cannot construct. So then it means you've just given me with one hand, then taken with another.
So there's nothing to smile about.
There's nothing to smile about because ni kuchezewa tu akili. Unapewa na hii mkono inachukuliwa na ingine. For example, right now you've seen they're saying the exchange rate has come low. Now you know what you need to understand about the exchange rate is the exchange rate is a function of trade. It's all about foreign exchange.
Yes.
If you have more dollars coming into your country, and more dollars will come into your country through maybe diaspora remittances, or through how much you export. So if you're exporting more tea, more coffee, you are exporting more meat, you are exporting more labor, then you're going to have more dollars flowing into your country because you're going to be paid for what you've exported in dollars.
Yes.
And that is how you manage an exchange rate.
Okay.
So now what they've done, instead of managing the trade imbalance so that we have more exports, so that we export more than we import. Right now we are importing even things we never used to import. We import sugar, we import milk, we import eggs, we import potatoes. KFC is not making new chips using potatoes from Kenya. The potatoes that are making the chips at KFC are imported potatoes. So for that reason, you find we are spending more dollars buying things out there to import them into the country, but we are not exporting more out there to get more dollars.
Okay.
And now what they've done to manage the exchange rate, to manage that problem, is they've borrowed more dollars. So instead of managing the problem, you put a bandage on the wound. A wound that is already imeanza kuoza. You put a bandage on it. So they now borrow more dollars and they liquidate their foreign reserves in gold and get dollars, so they manage this exchange rate. This thing is not going to last up to June this year.
Okay. Time will tell. Let's go back to accountability as we even wind up this conversation. As we put the government accountable, there are people who say you're not accountable. Especially on social media, the finances that you get from people who are supporting your cause. There are people who expect you to go out there and tell them this is the amount of money I've received and this is what I've done for this and this and this. There are some who feel like as a mirror, as somebody who's giving hope to the young people and a fresh blood of leader in the nation. You cannot call out the government as for accountability, yet you yourself, you're not accountable. What do you say about that?
Well, you see, the danger of propaganda is that it's like fire. The more you speak to it, the more you add fuel to fire. Well, that's a lie, because we've always published accountability reports. For example, I remember there's a time I published an accountability report on how many kilometers we've covered. And I remember saying that we've covered up to around 50,000 kilometers around the country, 29,000 for one vehicle and 21,000 kilometers for the other vehicle. 50,000 kilometers, I remember I did a breakdown and the cost of fuel came to around 1.72 million thereabout. I remember giving people an accountability report on how many employees we had and what they were being paid and what our running costs are every month. This is something that I published. I remember also publishing that we've now established a finance committee which has 7 people from Kenya and 7 people who live abroad, and now we have a 14-member coordination committee that budgets, spends, and then accounts for the money. So sometimes this money it's not money that even comes close to me. It's money that is managed by a whole team.
Okay.
So I never really have to explain it all the time. Probably there is that deficiency of trust because of what politicians have done in the past. So therefore people have a deficiency of trust, and therefore they want to scandalize every single thing.
Right.
But that process of raising finances from the public, that's the future. That's where the future lies. Well, we can do better in terms of tightening our systems, improving. Remember, there is no proper laws as to how you can actually do this. So most of the things we were actually doing them out of our own wisdom, and sometimes that wisdom may not be sufficient.
Okay.
But I do believe that raising money from people is the way into the future, because that is the only way we can deal with corruption. Because as long as people spend their own money for campaign,
Yes.
these people are going to want to recover that money. Or as long as people are funded by the corrupt people, criminals in our country to run for election, these people are going to recover that money through theft and corruption.
Okay.
So it's better to have this culture of fundraising, so that then people of integrity can come up, raise finances from the public, and occupy leadership positions.
Do young Kenyans feel empowered to question government decisions, and what barriers do they face? Are they empowered to question?
Well, the first barrier is that you could get killed. So many people have died questioning the government or trying to participate in peaceful protest. You could die, you could be killed. That's a reality. Second, you could be abducted. Thirdly, you could be loaded with cases, criminal cases that are baseless, but that just weigh you down.
Yeah.
Those are some of the challenges. The other challenge is that young people do not have the power to move around the country. Politicians do. So sometimes the power and the voice of young people is limited to those people who are on social media, because that's the only power or tool they have. An iPhone or a Samsung or a smartphone with bundles, all right, and access to the internet.
Yes.
But otherwise, politicians have a wider reach. They have a wider reach into the villages where it really matters. 70% of the country is rural. So sometimes these people never really get to know what goes on over here. But the politicians go down there in funerals and in market centers and in stopover rallies, and they lie to them. And you see, everybody is going to have the best available information. That's what they're going to work with. So the best available information to them is that the government is okay, everything is working, no money has been stolen. This is a lie by criminals and people who want to paint the government in bad light. So young people have that kind of limit, that financial or muscle limit in terms of how much they can access rural areas in communicating this. And lastly, there is the issue of fear. The government has worked very hard, or rather operatives in the government have worked very hard to ensure that young people are afraid. Afraid of speaking, afraid of turning out, afraid of holding meetings to speak about these things. And this fear was brought about by the killing of young people and abduction. So these are some of the challenges that young people face in trying to keep the government to account. But I do believe that the future is of the young people. The challenge is that probably they need to step up a little bit more, not just as voters, because young people are, yes, they are agitating for good governance, but they want to vote for the same old problems to bring them the good governance they want, which is impossible. It cannot happen.
96.9 FM, Pearl Radio.